breathing. He knows she's getting closer. He can feel her coming closer. She's getting closer. They're watching. They're watching.
This is a journey deep into darkness. There will be no more stories after this.
Hellblade: SENUA'S Sacrifice is an artistic, cinematic and atmospheric experience that takes you on a narrow path linear journey into Viking mythology through the eyes of a Celtic Pict Warrior who is suffering from psychosis. Senua has travelled to the lands of the Northern Men and seeks to enter Helheim to reclaim her lover Dilian's soul. As she traverses the land, she sinks deeper into psychosis. Whether the voices and visions and the fear and suffering she experiences is real is a moot point. Either way, the hell around her is her reality. As you progress through the game, you'll learn more about Senua and what caused her psychotic episode, and you'll experience a kaleidoscope of psychosis symptoms that are often presented to you as a core part of the gameplay.
Grow in strength until they consumed her whole.
You'll also see many interesting interpretations of Viking mythology, and you can learn more by finding runestones spread across the game. When you activate these stones, you'll be regaled with tales from the Norse mythology.
The Northmen speak of 9 worlds. The world of men they call Midgard. Sky gods dwell in Asgard. The gods of earth, harvest, wind and sea dwell in Vanaheim. The good elves dwell in Alfheim. The evil ones dwell in Svartalfheim.
The game is for the most part a satisfying and immersive journey, and the graphics, lighting, music and sound come together to create a dark and beautiful world full of interesting landmarks and also help to illustrate Senua's mental illness.
That moment when you look into the eyes of the one who is supposed to reassure you.
The gate is open.
This darkness. I know it from the wilds. It's coming back for me.
The sound is one of the most prominent ways a representation of psychosis is achieved. The game is best experienced with headphones, as a huge number of voice lines have been recorded with a binaural microphone that simulates the way human ears hear sounds. These voices accompany Senua throughout the game and are present for most of the journey. Senua's symptoms are further explored with an overwhelming use of visual effects and filters. The overwhelming application of such visuals is entirely by design and thrusts you into how Senua is experiencing the world around her. She notices patterns where others might not, and a combination of delusion and hallucination leads her to trudge forward solving puzzles and problems that might only be in her mind to begin with. The environments in the game are an impressive combination of twisted and disturbing, epic and surreal, and all of them have a sense of scale, whether claustrophobic or grand. As you progress through the story, you'll witness some truly incredible vistas. Light and shadow is used to great effect in the environment and also during displays of SENUA'S symptoms. It plays a key role in representing the internal darkness that SENUA struggles with throughout the narrative. All of these elements are bolstered by an impressive soundtrack full of dark tones and vocal lines, ambience, and huge percussion that underscores the grim visuals to great effect and evolves into more peaceful melodies as SENUA recalls happier times. The music continues to evolve and smoothly transitions when SENUA fights. Forceful vocal Nordic music begins to play and is a powerful accompaniment to the visceral combat. There are various combat encounters sprinkled throughout the game, and even some boss fights. The fighting is very cinematic and in combination with the music truly makes you feel like a badass Celtic warrior. There are a range of attack moves and combinations available to you, and the majority of them feel weighty and satisfying and make for some epic moments. Especially the running attacks, which make SENUA leap into the air to attack her foes. You can also dodge attacks with a sidestep or a roll, and when it's charged, you can activate a focus mode which slows time. Both of these elements add to the cinematic and epic nature of the combat, and there are some enemies you'll fight that are only vulnerable when you focus. Quick warning here that the next couple of things I'll be talking about, while not exactly spoilers, are my personal thoughts and experiences of a few elements in the game that may be best experienced firsthand rather than having them revealed and discussed here. Are some aspects of Hellblade: SENUA'S Sacrifice overdone? I think some aspects of the game are overdone or overemphasized in places, but only by around 10 to 15%, and part of this may be because I played through the game in one long session. I understand that symptoms of psychosis can be overwhelming and frustrating, and overall the game did a great job of showing this. It's hard to put in words what I'm getting at exactly, but within the context of the way I played the game, there were a few times I found myself thinking, okay, I get it, cool. Or once or twice when I rolled my eyes at a line of dialogue or the way something was presented on the screen or the way something was acted. There were the rare occasions where it felt like something had been represented to a point where I was completely indifferent to it or portrayed in such an overly exaggerated way it felt almost comical, which I'll acknowledge in some cases may have been the desired effects the developers were aiming for, but I also feel like on some of those rare occasions the artistic expression was a touch overdone and broke some of the immersion. But as I mentioned earlier, it's just my opinion, and I think these parts were only off by about 10 to 15%, and with a little more dialing in, this wouldn't be an issue at all. Also, quick side note, the drawn out slow walk "I'm injured" sequence was a bit excessive. The other thing I wanted to discuss here is that Hellblade: SENUA'S Sacrifice bluffs about a permanent death mechanic at the start of the game. If the darkness reaches SENUA'S head, you'll permanently die and lose all your progress. In reality, the darkness will never reach SENUA'S head no matter how many times you die. The developers have explained that this bluff was meant to be a way to explore another experience some people have during a psychotic episode, the feeling that you're going to die or that your death is approaching. It's an interesting idea, but my experience of this bluffed permadeath had a very different effect in the end. One instance where I'd say the bluffed permadeath had the intended effect was when I ran towards what looked like a fightable enemy, only to light on fire and start dying, and then being told to run away.
It's close, move away.
It was frustrating, but I then understood the mechanic, and while it felt unfair, it does achieve the fear of, oh no, I can't die to this again. The darkness will get closer to SENUA'S head, and I'll be even closer to losing all my progress. The problem I had with it was in the later stages of the game. While for the most part the combat was a very smooth experience, later in the game I seemed to occasionally be having a bug during combat where sometimes I couldn't dodge or movement felt extremely unresponsive. Senua would just stand there and get hit no matter how much I spammed the dodge key, or would seem to respond super slowly to the input from my keyboard. I also had trouble switching targets sometimes, and these issues resulted in multiple deaths. If I hadn't been told permadeath was a thing, it would have been annoying, but overall no big deal. Whatever, I died, I'll just do it again. The problem is that dying to an unfair death caused by a bug when you're 6+ hours into an experience and have the belief that you were extremely close to losing all your progress creates the wrong kind of fear and frustration associated with dying. It isn't a fear that makes you try to avoid dying, but instead an immense sense of frustration directed towards the game's design and apparent bugginess. I reached a point where I said to myself, well, if I keep dying to these bugs and I permanently die and lose all progress, then screw it, I'll play something else. And that's a huge problem. A game that I had been, for the most part, really enjoying and had been a very interesting experience so far, now had me in a state where I was losing interest and was basically like, nah, I'm out. In the end, I continued and finished the game, and by that point I was pretty sure that the permadeath must be a bluff. My attitude was now, if I do actually permanently die, then I'm done, but I must be close to the end, so I'll keep going and see what happens. I think that the permadeath bluff was an interesting idea, but in the end, an unnecessary cause of the wrong kind of frustration.
Why go on? When you give everything and face that which torments you, only to find that it is worse than you could have imagined. Why go on? Is it really so weak to ask this?
For the most part, I really enjoyed Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Yes, it's a very linear and contained experience, and there were parts of it that I think were a little off or frustrating in the wrong ways, but overall I thought it was an inspiring artistic and cinematic representation of psychosis, founded on a strong basis in reality, and a compelling exploration of Viking mythology in an interesting and novel way. I think it creates opportunities for discussion, is well worth the asking price, and is an interesting way to spend an evening or two. I can definitely recommend this game. Anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know what your experiences were with Hellblade down in the comments. Thanks to the legends supporting me on Patreon, and thank you for watching. Have a good day or night, whichever it may be, and I'll see you in the next video.
I never beat you in the wilds, did I? It was an illusion. But not this time!